Hi there, it's Erin Tracy again, and today I'm going to continue with this short series about how transformational healing of anxiety and anger happens at a very deep level, not just on a superficial level that gets you through the moment, but that gets you to the place where the trigger, the situation, the old stories no longer have such teeth to hold on so much. And I spoke, and really these can be looked at in any sort of order because actually the process of healing is not so linear at all. Um, we get this opportunity as we begin our journey to accepting and our awareness, accepting and allowing, we keep spiraling up and we come into contact with things from a higher state, more calm, perhaps. As healing happens, we interact with that old stuff in new ways, and it allows for more ease and calm to come in, and more healing. So, what I want to speak about today is about being disrupted by the energy of others or the things that others do or say. It could be things that are happening right now in the room. Could be things that people you live with. I'm going into a store and feeling people. And so I wanted to speak a little bit about that as a segue into this topic of yi, which I mentioned in part 2 of these talks yesterday. So many folks that I work with would call themselves empaths or are highly empathic. They're easily drawn in to the suffering of others, the emotionality of other people. They actually feel themselves getting drained sometimes by someone who they see as like there's these terms of, like, people say energy vampire and that sort of thing. And there's this belief that you have to ward off that, or like keep your energy for yourself so nobody else can take it. Yes and no. Things are not always so black and white. But what I want to speak about here is whether people have, like, we talk about antagonistic energy of another person, an interaction, whether you have many antagonistic relationships or just one, we can absolutely train our energy and our mind to move easily through that experience of feeling another person. And we do this by cultivating our chi and which is foundational energy, which I spoke more about yesterday, and also our yi. So yi is, in this case, I'm going to keep this very simple, refers to the broadness of our intention. So ultimately, in not just the Chinese medicine tradition, but in other spiritual traditions, it's this idea of being more kind, having less worry, being more benevolent in your actions and thoughts too. These would all elevate your chi. And when your chi, not yi, when your yi, this intention is high and of this high quality, also, along with this foundational energy being high, you are able to access that resiliency, let things go more easily, not get triggered so much, being more unflappable. And of course, that's great. That's great to, like, kind of just be able to go with the flow with more of life. This also impacts your immunity, your metabolism, your health in other ways, your actual physical health, and how great is it to not mind so much what happens. So what I wanted to speak about today, about one way that I support people to elevate that intention piece, because while chi is important, chi will flow with your attention. Yi, though, this other higher heart and soul quality that I'm speaking of, this intention, this organizes the energy that you have your attention on. It can be quite useful because for example, if you have an interaction with somebody and it was not pleasant, and you are really miffed that you let them get to you, and you have all of your attention on that, and like, oh, I'm going to show them, next time I see them, I am going to tell them off, and I'm going to say why, that they were out of line, and you have all of your intention, Your focused energy is on like a self-righteous piece, being right, making yourself heard. And it narrowly focuses the energy versus very simply just holding for the two of you to exist in a harmonious way, to agree to disagree, these sorts of things. So what I wanted to say today about cultivating that is making a choice, a decision. Even if you're not able to fully put it into action, you can make the decision to do this. And this is a kind and loving thing to do for yourself, is to take 100% responsibility for your emotional state and where you are right now. And I get it, you know, stuff has happened and you've been impacted by things that are outside your control. And still, from this point forward, say, here's where I am. I take responsibility for how I'm feeling and what I'm doing, what I'm choosing. Not always so easy to do, although I'm sure that rationally, many of you are saying, that sounds like a great idea. I'd like to do that. But it's difficult. So why is this? I will say the reason that I'm saying this is that once we are doing that, once we are taking responsibility for how we are being, almost 100% of the time or 100% of the time, we won't be so disrupted by the energy of other people and other things happening all around us. Our anxiety will be lower because we're coming from a broader place. So I am trying to keep this quite simple, but I wanted to explain something that that I work with clients. It may be that this video and this short exercise we're going to do is enough. You can take it and run with it. But towards the end, I'll give you some information about how we could work together to get at what I'm speaking about today. So, as I've mentioned in other videos, many of my clients, and me too, for years have sought books, therapy, different spiritual teachings, different interventions with how I held my body and meditation, yoga, and that sort of thing, to help me not take things so personally, let go of my judgment, be kinder to myself, access self-love, let go of anger, and to just generally feel less stressed. You can probably relate. We've tried to do a lot of things ourselves. For me, when I was in that place, I just ended up, had insight from all of that. It's very useful, very good stuff. I certainly don't knock it. But what I was finding is that I was just sort of feeling bad about myself because I couldn't do it. I could not let go of the stories I had in one particular relationship. I wanted to wake up every morning with a clean slate, but yet, there was the stuff from the day before. And I just ended up feeling like, I guess I'm just never going to get it, like I'm not evolved enough or whatever. I beat myself up. I did, however, learn how to not show it so much on the outside. I became aware of what my inner stuff, how it was looking on the outside. But on the inside, I did not feel peaceful and calm. Self-love was still quite hard to access. And what I found in my own experience and in my own study, in doing what I do now, supporting other people to access their healing in a transformative way, is that we benefit greatly from addressing the story or the beliefs or the lies that have kept us in contraction. Now, this is key. You do not have to intellectually be able to verbalize what that is. Sometimes that's useful, but it's not necessary. And in our Western culture, we believe that we have to look at it and understand it and roll around in it and suffer with it a little bit more and punish ourselves, and then we get some clarity. And actually, what I found is that that's not true. It's possible to simply remove the stuff, to remove the gunk, and to let go. Even if we've made that decision many times before, and been able to let go, or maybe we are aware of the story of why we don't want to let go. For example, like a lot of times people will tell me that they don't want to take responsibility for where they are because that lets somebody else off the hook. Somebody who they have a story of blaming them, or they want them to take responsibility for where they are. And I get that, totally get that. And is it getting you what you want to hold on to that story? We have so much unconscious programming. Conscious programming also, that awareness that I just said to you would be conscious programming, but we also have stuff that just got in from our upbringing, from our culture. Who knows? And I'm not here to judge it. I don't judge it. I would invite you not to judge it. I would invite you to be curious about what you can let go. And the thing is that sometimes the stuff that I'm talking about, the stagnation, Chinese medicine might call it phlegm, physical phlegm, energetic phlegm, the stuff that's stuck, it can be a challenge. It can take a longer time to move it when we are trying to do it all by ourselves. When you come from an empowered place and seek assistance in moving that through, there is something to having the energy that isn't you move it through. I personally resisted this for a long time because I'm a very independent person and very much want to figure stuff out myself. Still am like that. And it's been very useful in my life to accept help, that that I don't have a story that there's a string attached to it. So anyhow, this idea of having some support to remove that sticky, stagnant stuff is something to consider. And maybe, just listening to this today would be enough for you to do that. And maybe you would like more help, more support, so that you can continue in an empowered way along your path. So I was thinking about a story that I think I originally heard from Eckhart Tolle in one of his books. And he tells a story of these two monks. One is the elder monk, and he is the teacher of the younger monk. And they're traveling back to their monastery, and they come upon a noble woman, and they're crossing they're crossing a place where the stream has washed out the road after a heavy rain. The woman is dressed in fine clothes, and these monks have taken a vow not to touch women in a different class, or maybe not women at all. But the road is pretty washed out. She's in this beautiful dress, and she is standing there, and she needs to cross the road. The older monk picks her up, takes her across, sets her on the other side, and the two monks continue on their journey, and the woman continues on her journey. The younger monk is appalled because they've taken this oath not to touch women, not to, they're not supposed to touch women and carry them across. And he is just seething about it. How can his spiritual teacher have disregarded this very important teaching in their tradition? And so several hours later, they're still continuing along the path. And finally, the young monk can contain it no longer. And he's like, "Teacher, why did you pick up that woman? You know that we're not supposed to do that. Like, how could you have been so callous to break our vows?" And the older monk just cuts him off, and he looks at him, and he's so surprised. And he said, "I set the woman down hours ago. Why are you still carrying her?" And I love that story. I love that story because it holds up the mirror of when our self-righteousness can get in the way of our freedom. That those hours that young monk didn't say a word and just seethed and held on to the resentment and the disappointment. For me, when I read that, it represented decades of my life. No more. So anyhow, having some help sometimes it's enough just to have a story like that to wake you up. And sometimes we need more because unfortunately, it's been our path, or fortunately, perhaps, I tend to look at it as fortunately, that things have seeped in and they've gotten in and it's difficult for us to remove it ourselves. So it is absolutely useful and a part of healing for the long term to help open the pathways to letting go and truly develop more tolerance, open-heartedness, calm, and more peaceful states. And when we spend more time, it just has to be a little bit of time, just have some experiences in that way more of the time. We find that we have less anxiety, we have less triggers, or when we get triggered, the amount of time we suffer is less. We have better health, stronger immunity, better metabolism, more energy to get things done, better sleep. And in return, the cycle continues. We feel more calm, more peaceful. We realize that there is no cost to being kind and benevolent. It's only paying forward. We have to be aware, though, that there are some of the things that get in the way of this, of having more peace, of totally taking responsibility for our emotional state. So we have these things that go on in our head. And some of those are from that programming. They're from that stagnation, from the phlegm. So be aware. Do you have that going on for you? Do you have stories like, who am I to enjoy my life when there's so much suffering in the world? Or anything that's of a story of, I'm not meant to enjoy peace or happiness. Or if you have that belief about other people, that they are not eligible for happiness, that will affect you as well. So any story or lie that keeps you in contraction, any stories of self-righteousness, of being, that your way is the right way and the only way, and their way is absolutely wrong. They are so misguided. They are, my favorite one is, they're just so stupid. How can you be so stupid? Why won't they just do the right thing? And we have a lot of contraction around all of that. And please understand that I do have opinions about things, the way that I would like the world to be. However, being able to rest in what has been very healing for me, and very empowering, and certainly has affected my health and well-being, and it keeps getting better. So much of transformational energy of transformational healing has to do with loving ourselves very deeply, allowing that, accepting that, taking that full responsibility for how we're feeling. And I realize that when I talk about loving ourselves or self-love, that this is in itself a trigger for people. I have had more than one client have some rendition of, when I spoke about loving self, accepting self, say, we're not going there. No, thank you. I don't want to look at that. It can be uncomfortable. There's a lot there. And with support, perhaps your heart can open again to that place of loving and accepting, taking responsibility fully for where you are and what has happened, so that you're able to have a presence even that's healing for others if you desire, so that you can live with more joy and peace and happiness and ease, better health, and spend less time in the suffering. The suffering, the pain, has a usefulness in our life as well. And that is, I have to be careful saying these sorts of things when we're doing something like this where I can't see you and we're not having a chance to interact. I would very much, though, like to have a chance to do that with you. And while I have an intensive, longer program, I have recently been guided to offer something that was also intensive, but shorter. And it may be that it's all you need to have the bridge to freedom. So the new rendition of my program is shorter and focuses more on the tools and the support to move the gunk out of the way instead of what the longer program does, which I'm not going to talk about right here. You can read about that if you like. So if you would like to join me, I will be starting up in, it will be on a rolling basis, and it will we start the group part on Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern. And there will also be one-on-one Qigong instruction and also recorded teaching. I'd very much like to have you. I will put a link where you find this video so that you can read about the access to this program. Thank you so much for your time. And now, as promised, I wanted to give a little bit of medical Qigong protocol for letting go of some of the things that we were just talking about. So if you would like to do that and you want to come back to this later, you can come back at about 20 minutes in. So what I'm about to show you is something that I share with most of my clients at some point. And if you've ever come to one of my guided meditations, we've probably done this before. So you can remember what I'm about to show you and explain to you and use it anytime. So just take a comfortable seat and let your body relax as best as you can in this moment. It will be enough, whatever that is. And closing your eyes and just notice the breath. Not trying to change it, make it any different or better. And just see if each inhale, as you let the body fill up and feel the body fully, if each exhale you can let go of any tension that you're feeling right now in this moment. And then take your awareness to the tailbone. And imagine that we're going to trace the breath from the tailbone on the inhale. Let the breath come up the spine, up over the top of the head, and down the front midline of the face. And let the inhale end on the upper lip. The exhale starts on the chin. Breathe down the center line of the body. Let the breath come around the pelvic floor to the tailbone. And then start again. Inhale, tailbone up the spine, over the top of the head. Ending the inhale on the upper lip. Exhale from the front midline of the body down, around to the pelvic floor, and ending the exhale at the tailbone. So you're making this oval of breath around the midline of the body, starting and ending the cycle at the tailbone. Inhale, tailbone up the spine, over the top of the head to the upper lip. Exhale starts on the chin. Exhale down. And imagine that as you're doing this, you're clearing anything that's stuck on the spine, anything that's seeped in, and clearing anything out of the channel in the front of the body. Inhale, come up, over the top of the head. Exhale. Follow the breath to back around to the tailbone. Again, 4 or 5 more times. Fabulous. So that is something that you can do for yourself anytime you feel like you need to shake off something. In the work that we will do together, that practice is a great practice, and it may be enough. We will do things that go quite a bit deeper. Uh, Let me know if you have any questions about what we talked about today, or the upcoming program. I am so excited about it, and I look forward to touching base. Take care. Thanks.